Greetings.
Hello, welcome to Hearthaholics, a Hearthstone strategy podcast about sitting back, chatting with friends, and figuring out how to be more awesome at this game. I am your host, Bryan. This is episode 8. I really hope I updated my notes, but I'm going to trust that I did. Joining me today... Right. Oh, awesome. All right, two co-hosts. Andres. Hello, Andres. How are you doing?
Hey, Bryan. How's it going?
It is going very well. I'm very happy that this is actually episode 8. That means we are 2 episodes away from our 10th anniversary.
Woo! Yeah,
we need to plan a crazy party.
Yeah, we should do like a podcast party or something like that.
Exactly. Get drunk on Hearthstone. And also joining me is Billy. Hello, Billy.
Hello. Hi, Bryan. I've been not playing too much Hearthstone this week.
That's what I was thinking. I hadn't heard
Batman.
Much. Because Batman. First it was Netflix, now it's Batman. Before that it was RuneScape. To think it used to be Hearthstone keeping you from everything else.
Yeah, well, I'm getting back into Hearthstone. I'm using Hearthstone as my... Don't you worry. Next season, I'm going to play a lot of Hearthstone. Fantastic. As of right now, there's not much reason to, because 4 days left of season, but...
Hey, Arena. Testing out stupid decks. Speaking of decks, you put something up on our channel this last weekend.
I did. The Beat Stick Druid deck, which is pretty awesome. If you guys haven't seen that, I recommend you go check it out, because I want everybody's opinion on that deck, because I think it's actually a really, really... solid Druid deck right now, and unfortunately, there's no counter to Patron Warrior in it, which does make it frustrating to play sometimes. But that's fun.
Well, I did see you got one comment from one of our regular listeners and friends at the game night, so go ahead and check that out.
Oh, I didn't. Damn.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's on your first video, so you can go ahead and look at that. But he had some
Beat
thoughts
Stick
on it.
Druid. That's a very interesting name. Where did that name come from? I want to know that
exactly
story.
The same thing.
Well, I explain it in the video, so you should go check. No, in the video I explained that.
There you go, guys.
It's made. The name comes from the idea of every single one of the minions kind of stick to the board, so that there's a way to trigger Savage Draw every turn. So you're always kind of threatening lethal.
Oh,
and I figured that all the minions stick to the board, and in other trading card games, they beat you.
They beat you.
And in other trading card games, usually people use the term, I think it's like a beta. That's the idea of a minion that just sticks to the, a card that sticks to the board and is able to control the board for you for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, that makes sense. I just love the name, and I love how the art you did for the thumbnails is fantastic. So, everyone, check out just look up Hearthaholics, not Healthaholics. YouTube is going to try to make you search Healthaholics.
YouTube is so rude with that. I'm genuinely frustrated that every single time I try to look up Hearthaholics and I see Healthaholics, I'm like, you know what? How dare you have a similar name to us?
I should have done more specific research when coming up with our name, but oh well. But even if you type in...
Our name is perfect, though. Even if we knew of them, we have to try and dethrone them, because
that is
this
true.
name is
we have to get more
good.
subscribers than Healthaholics. But even if you type in Hearthstone Podcast, we should come up pretty soon. So check that out. Billy, you released 3 episodes. I did publish your episode for you today.
I saw that. I appreciated that. I'm gonna probably take it back down to 2 rather than having 3.
Makes sense.
Just because it spills out onto a Monday for Australian and I believe UK. No, not UK viewers, but it's easier for it to just be a Saturday and a Sunday for everybody. I just think that's better. I think we're gonna go back to a 2 video format rather than a 3 video format. Plus, I've already recorded this week's one, so yes, we're definitely doing that.
Awesome! I look forward to seeing what is it. Another just deck you're previewing here that you came up with?
I'm playing the Japanese Priest this week because I wanted to show you the deck, to be honest, and I was too lazy to show you it in game. But it's a pretty good deck, and it's very board control focused, so I think it's a deck that you would enjoy.
It's right up my alley. Yeah, I had a really interesting conversation with Vincent over this last week about Tempo Mage. He absolutely hates Tempo Mage. So it was interesting revisiting that deck and just hearing someone come at it from a completely critical point of view, pointing out all of the flaws in it, etc. And he brought up some strong points. I think that deck does have a lot of weaknesses to it. Primarily, if it doesn't get a strong start, it's very hard to come back with it, and it doesn't have a lot of strong counters to what's out there right now. But in any case, maybe because of my low rank or something else, it did very well for me. And I think it also, when it gets on a roll, it can absolutely stomp people when played right. So
Very nice.
that was interesting to revisit. But yeah, so not for you, Billy, but for us here, it is Memorial Day weekend, which means that we have 3 days off instead of 2. Or most people do. People that don't create their own work for them. So yeah, Billy, what have you been up to? It's a short weekend for you, right?
Yeah, it's just a standard weekend.
Yeah. So no fun grillings out with friends.
Yeah, it's a lot of grilling going on around here.
The amount of meat consumed in America over this 3 days is probably terrifying.
A lot of grilling and a lot of beer.
I would love to know those stats, though.
Oh, yeah.
How much meat is actually consumed on that day. That'd be incredible.
I don't have those right in front of me, unfortunately.
That would be great.
I'll add them in the
Why
show
aren't you
notes.
ready with all these world facts, Brian? It is your job.
It is a meat grilling podcast.
Brian, I
this,
thought you were keeping up with the meat industry. What is wrong?
Yeah, man.
I've really fallen behind. I've been playing too much Hearthstone. It's my fault. I apologize. But yeah, Billy, what have you been up to? If you haven't been, drinking beer and grilling meat, then what the heck have you been doing?
Batman's pretty fun.
Oh yeah,
I've
Batman.
been playing a lot of that, mainly because obviously I haven't yet. And I've been playing a lot of Heroes of the Storm, because that's also fun.
What if you could play as Batman in Heroes of the Storm?
You have no idea how much I would love that. I'm pretty sure I would never play any other game ever.
Until you got his master skin, and then you would,
Maybe they can do a skin for it,
Illidan?
yeah, for
that'd be
Illidan,
sick.
or what's the other one that goes into the shadows? What's his
Tassadar?
name? Not Tassadar.
Zeratul. I get this mixed up
Yeah,
every
that'd
time.
be sick. Oh, please, dude. If they got the license for DC characters and they could make DC skins,
Given that DC currently has a MOBA, well, maybe it could be cross promotion, where they're go play the DC
Yeah,
MOBA.
Really?
Now that
They
you
have a
think that-
MOBA?
Yeah.
yeah. DC Universe has a MOBA. It's called Infinity Crisis, and yes,
When
they
did
play
this
it.
come out?
Deal with it.
I don't know. 6 months ago? I haven't been keeping track of
it
MOBAs.
came out a while ago.
Yeah,
it
no,
was.
I have
I
not
think it was in
heard
a
anything
beta
about
phase
it.
for quite some time. Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
very popular because the competitive scene for MOBAs don't like the game because there's a lot of balancing issues, and apparently it gets very stale because, and I'm saying apparently because I haven't played very much of the game at all, but
Yeah.
there's multiple different versions for characters which people don't like, because you have Batman and then you have Gaslight Batman, which is a Batman from another comic story, right? So the idea is that they have multiple different versions of each character because of the story in that game, which is all the universes kind of crumbled on top of each other. So now everyone's living in this alternate universe thing, and it's a
So it's kind of like Heroes of the
complicated
Storm.
comic book story. That's the point.
One day I'm
So-
going to find a simple comic book story. One day.
I don't believe you.
Spider-Man. Simple.
Well, actually,
Uh-oh.
if you have you seen the original origin of Peter Parker?
Original origin? I don't think so.
There was the original origin of him involved an abusive childhood, and
Oh, no.
he was I'm not sure if I'm allowed to get not PG, if I'm allowed to go beyond the bounds of PG on this show.
Yeah, go ahead.
But he may or may not have been sexually abused as a child.
Oh, no. That's terrible. That wasn't
I
his
know.
uncle and aunt, was it?
No, it was not.
Okay. So he will say
So
that would be a huge
This was
twist
like
on the
the
character.
original one, and then they were
Yeah.
no, this is too tragic, and then they remade it.
This is the
Yeah.
60s, or did they go back and do this in a
I don't
later
know
arc?
when this was. I saw this on a
Okay.
Variant Comics video, which is a super popular comic book channel. He
Yeah.
usually shows off stuff that's in comics that the mainstream audience doesn't know about, which is what I am. So it's nice
Yeah.
to.
And I'm
nice
that
channel.
doubly. That's crazy.
That's
Man, Peter
interesting.
Parker seems like such a happy guy. I guess he's had a lot to deal with.
Apparently.
He copes through humor.
Yeah, I guess down the line they were like, well, he would have a lot of trauma if he has this problem as a child. So I don't know how we're gonna write the story. And they're like, well, it's just go back.
I feel like it was just changed because it wasn't PG enough, and they wanted to be more PG, so like children were able to read the story.
That might be, or I could really see it again. I don't know when it happened, but maybe the original comic just started out with him, once he was a teenager with Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and later an arc said we need to make his, dark backstory, and maybe they added that in at a later point. I don't know. That's just a complete guess, but I can see that happening.
I just know that it happened at some point in the comics.
We need to make it darker.
Exactly. That is the way of superheroes, because we all know DC doesn't make anything but horribly dark stuff.
Listen, we could go on to a ramble about that. I will defend that 100% of the time. I'm telling you that their new movies are not going to be as dark as everybody is assuming.
So, shameless plug here. If you want to hear about Billy and I talk about more random, superhero stuff like this, check out the Whales Are Whales podcast. Just go to whalesorwhales.com. It's right there on the front page. We don't have it on iTunes yet, but you can listen to it and download it on our website. And Billy was on the last episode, and there was a lot of Batman talk, etc. There was even more DC talk once we ended the recording. You and Zach just could not stop talking about DC.
DC is awesome, but this is not a DC podcast. This is a Hearthstone podcast.
Yeah, that is right. So going on to Hearthstone, what have you been up to this last week in Hearthstone, Andres?
I've been trying to ladder a lot. I've been trying to get as high as I can. It's getting a little tougher now that I'm up here. I've been trying to stick to only Patron Warrior, and I was having a lot of success last week. But this week, I've really, really had a hard time keeping up with it because everybody seems to be running a little hate against the good old Patron.
It's more like a Hatron Warrior now.
Yeah, Hatron Warrior. That's a good name for it. There's a lot of Control Warrior. There's a lot of Handlock and Ramp Druid and a lot of Priest that's very equipped to kind of handle your stuff.
So are we actually going to see Black Knight be playable again or, resurge again? Because I would love to start playing that card again. I love Black Knight.
If it keeps up like this, I wouldn't doubt. I mean, I think I've already seen a couple of people with a Black Knight in their deck. I even ran into a Hunter with a Black Knight, which blew my mind. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a possibility, yeah.
Shameless plug on this week's videos on the Hearthaholics channel. You may or may not see a Black Knight in that deck.
Oh my gosh, this podcast is now sold out to its own members. We just spend the entire podcast talking about other podcasts and content we do.
Well, we're just pointing out the convenience, which is the Whales Are Whales network, and then everything
you don't need to listen to anything else
that.
Except, of course, the Angry Chicken because we love them. But that's really interesting to hear. So, you're sticking with Patreon? Are you making any edits to it, or did you swap out?
I was sticking to it throughout the whole weekend, but this week I started going back a little bit to Handlock because I think that it is working really well right now. And a lot of people agree. A lot of the new meta snapshots for the week have pointed at Warlock, especially Handlock, as being as a top tier deck right now. Yep. And I agree. It has very good matchups, and even against the Hunter one, it still has a pretty good chance, especially if you take it the right way.
Yeah, I really agree with you there. I've been playing pretty much 100% Handlock as well. I'm still learning it. As people know from last episode, this is my first time ever playing Handlock. So I took the tips you guys had into the battlefield, and I believe I'm at exactly a 50% win ratio right now without counting games I've played on my phone. So, nice. I'm not failing. So it's going okay. I'm definitely enjoying it, and one reason it's really fun to play right now is there is so much Handlock out there, and Handlock versus Handlock mirror matchups are just awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to watch as well, because there's always the awkward moment of, are we allowed to do damage to each other? Because if I do damage to you, you can play Molten Giants, and I don't like that. It's always a fun match for me to watch, at least. I used to love that, man. That was... I miss the days of, Handlock being prime and Miracle Rogue being prime. That were some of the funnest times of Hearthstones to me, because watching Handlock versus anything is fun.
Well, Handlock is absolutely back. I mean, I'm seeing it. Not only am I playing it the entire time, but I'm seeing it everywhere. And I guess
a lot of people are playing it.
The new Miracle Rogue, if you will, right now is the Patron Warrior in terms of you got your bursty combo deck out there. So those are interesting matchups. But Handlock does seem to, do pretty well because it has all of those creatures out that have 3 or more attack and can taunt up. And that's a little bit difficult for Patron Warrior to deal with, especially since it doesn't keep all of the removal from Warrior's traditional, what would you say, quiver. But yeah, so it's been, have you had much Handlock practice on the ladder yet, Andres, in these last few days?
Yeah, I was running it the whole day today, and so far
Nice.
I've had a pretty good win ratio, especially because there's a lot of control warrior out there, and I get really happy when I get a match against a control warrior. Yeah, I just have so many threats, and they just have to respond to all of them.
I remember in my old Control Warrior days, it was still the deck I played the most and gotten to the highest rank, I think. But that was the day when I was so happy I specifically teched in a Black Knight because of all the handlock I was running into. And that really swung the game in my favor a lot of times.
Yeah, that's pretty good against handlock.
Yep, it's that extra removal you want. That's just like, oh, you see that giant? Oh, nope, you don't need more.
Yeah.
Now let me play a big game hunter and just seal this deal. So,
also, aside from that, I did get the stuff for my new computer, which I'm really excited about.
Yes, you did. So, okay, I wanted to ask you this before the podcast, and I will ask you now. What parts did you end up getting for it? I'm really curious.
So I already had the graphics card, and I think I'm going to stick to it. It's not the best graphics card, but it's a GTX 660.
Cool.
And I think
that's a good one.
It's going to get the job done. I got an Asus motherboard, C97A.
Okay.
It's I don't know.
It's a motherboard.
Yeah, it's a motherboard. Your standard has everything you want, USB 3.1.
So long as it has USB ports.
Yeah, that's about it. I did get an i5 processor. It's the 4690K, which is a really good gaming processor.
I believe that might be the exact one I have, but now I'm curious to check. But continue.
I think it's really popular for gaming rigs, especially because it's in the rather affordable range.
Yep. It was the i5. What was it? The i5
4690K.
That's a little better than mine. I had the 3570. So.
Oh, cool.
You went up.
Yeah, anything in that range is pretty good for gaming, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm really happy I finally got an SSD for it.
Oh, yeah. SSDs are the best. You're going to love that. It's amazing.
Yes. Even better because today was the Memorial Day sale weekend or whatever. So I already had everything.
That's a thing? Oh,
yeah, that is a thing here.
So many sales.
It's America, man.
But I had everything reserved out in the cart already for the store. And then when I logged in today, because I was curious, I was like, I wonder if they're having a sale. I logged in and I had $100 less than the regular price was. So I was oh wow, that's awesome. So I went ahead and got everything today. But I'm not building it till next weekend when my friend's coming over to help me out.
Yeah, in America, even our sales go on sale. It's pretty amazing right here.
Yeah, there's a lot of sales going around here all the time.
Yeah, and Steam. Luckily, Steam, you get to benefit from, Billy, because that's part of our culture.
Steam sales help, but
for sure. But that's really exciting, Andres. You've been dealing with shared computers and underpowered computers for a long time, so it's really nice to just have that kind of powerhouse of your own to work with.
Yes, this is something I've been wanting for a long time, and I've been saving for it for a while. I took my time to do the research, get something that was going to be upgradable for the future. I see it as an investment,
Yeah, that's going to be really solid. Absolutely every Blizzard game is going to be amazing. If you end up wanting to, play The Witcher 3 on Ultra, you'll have to do something crazier.
I'm so excited. This is going to be my gaming and other gaming related stuff computer.
Yeah. That's great. I'm excited to see what you start playing because as Billy has started to branch out, this is going to kind of open the doors for you as well.
Yeah,
and
for
see
sure.
what other kind of video games you guys come up with. All right, so let's jump into our topics here. For people who don't know, every week we each bring one topic about strategies of Hearthstone, maybe something we want to improve upon, maybe something we want to complain about, maybe something that we're slipping in that's wildly off topic and we're hoping nobody else notices. We will see. This week, Andres, I wanted to start with your topic.
Sure.
So go for it.
All right. Well, my topic this week regards Hearthstone coaching, and is it something that might be useful for you? Is it worth it? Would you pay for Hearthstone coaching, and would it be something that benefits you in the long run? I wanted to talk a little bit about it because for the first time in my life, I had a coaching session for Hearthstone last Friday. I was fortunate enough to run into a Reddit post posted by Just Saying. He is a I don't want to say renowned Hearthstone player because he's actually not very known in the scene, but he's known in the pro scene. A lot of the really good players know him because he finishes top in the ladder most of the seasons, at least top 10, and he's had a couple of number 1 finishes and number 2 finishes. I also know that he recently became the warrior expert for the Tempo Storm.
I like the sound of this.
Yeah, he's gonna be the person in charge of covering the warrior for all their meta snapshots, because that's his style, his class. He made a post about Patron Warrior, which was really interesting. And since I've been playing the deck for a while, I thought I'd give it a shot. And he was offering coaching, so I reached out to him. He was really kind about it, and we had a whole session, and it went really well. I really enjoyed it. He was very insightful. The thing I learned the most, I was taking my time making the plays and talking to him and asking him questions about the deck and all that stuff. So we didn't get a chance to play a lot of games, but we won probably 95% of the games that we played.
Wow.
It was about like, I don't know, 10, 11 games. So yeah, we
won.
Well,
I'm going to call you out there, Andres. If you play 10 games, it's impossible to win 95%.
You're right. Yeah. So it's more like 91.2.
That's even harder, like but continue. All right, so that sounds really cool. I actually considered a while back Dills from the Angry Chicken was offering coaching. And back when I was really new at the game, I was thinking of like getting him to coach me on some arena stuff. Because as I've learned more with talking, even, casual players of the game, like you guys last week with handlock and all that sort of stuff, it's really useful to have someone dedicated to answer your questions. Because sometimes you have like specific plays you want to make or specific questions you have that you can't just find resources for online to answer. And they can adapt more to your play style. So yeah, what from that session do you think you pulled out learning the most?
So, before we go into the session and all that stuff, I just wanted to touch a little bit into if you should get coaching, right? Because I do think that not everyone should go rush and like be like, okay, what I need is some Hearthstone coaching right now. I think you should have like certain level of readiness, or you should be prepared, or take your time before you go into coaching, because honestly, especially if you're gonna pay for a coach, you're not gonna get much out of it if you're not already very familiar with some of the stuff. At least know the deck that you're playing, get comfortable with it, play some games with it, and know what questions you have, so that when you go into one of these sessions, you actually make the best out of it, right? You actually have questions for them. You've played with the deck, so if you've encountered situations that you don't know what to do, so you can ask help through that area. Don't just jump into a session, because I feel like what you don't want it to end up being is just another person telling you what plays to do, and you just doing them. And then once you're done with the session, you're in the same spot, not knowing what to do. You just had a person just tell you how to play for a second.
So it sounds like, for example, if I wanted to get coaching, which I don't need, by the way, because I am perfect at Hearthstone, so that might be a waste of my time. But
you are the best Hearthstone player, that is true.
Of course, yes. I'm not renowned, but I'm a Hearthstone ninja. No one's using coaching. But anyway, if I, for example, wanted to get coaching in this alternate universe, I should probably learn the deck beforehand. And I was talking about how there are a lot of other resources. So I should probably, for handlock, talk to you guys, look up other resources online, read deck guides, and learn what I can on my own, so that when I bring the coach on, he's not just teaching me the stuff I could have learned elsewhere, but he's teaching me the stuff that I could only learn from an advanced player.
Exactly. And then also there's a lot of people out there who offer coaching. There's a lot of pro players who separate some of the time of their week to do some coaching sessions, but most of them charge money, so you want to come prepared to the sessions, and you also want to find a coach that specializes in what you want to learn. The reason I reached out to Just Sayin was because he was offering coaching especially for Patron Warriors. That is his main deck right now, and the thing that he's been playing the most. Him and Zalay both have reached top 1 this season already using the Patron Warrior deck, so he is very familiar with that, especially with the warrior class in general. So he was a good fit for the type of thing that I wanted to learn. Because keep in mind that the sessions last, an hour, 2 hours if you want to. But during that time, you're not gonna have the time to learn everything about the game and switch from deck to deck. You might wanna specialize. Pick one deck, pick something that you want to really improve your game on, and then find a coach that specializes in that aspect.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, out of curiosity, do you know good places to find like what sorts of Hearthstone coaching is out there? Is there a website of people that put out their services, or should you just check popular streams for like a coaching section?
I know that you can go to Tempestorm. I know that you can go to iHearthU, and there's a couple other websites. I think Liquid Hearth has also coaching services, and a lot of the top players in Hearthstone, let's say, I know Admirable was doing it for a bit, Colento, Firebat, most of them offer some sort of coaching. Purple Drang, Saleh, they're all in different websites, probably their team websites, and they offer these services. Their rates may vary. Like if you're going for Colento, you might have to pay, $80 to $100. But if you're going for maybe a less known player, but that's also very good, it might cost you more, like, 30, maybe $40 an hour.
I would love to do training with Colento sometime just to see him do an amused smile like every time I do a play. Like, oh, shoot. What did I do wrong, Colento? He's just smiling and shaking his head.
It would be an interesting session with Colento for sure. I wonder if it would be a little awkward.
Probably a little bit. I mean, he does. I believe he speaks a different native tongue, so there'd be a little of that lost in translation. But I'm sure he'd give a lot of
that's also something to keep in mind when you're finding a coach. Just because they're the top one player in the world doesn't mean that they're the top one teacher of Hearthstone in the world.
Yeah, and find someone that, if you've seen them on their stream, would you connect with them? Do you think you get along with them and be able to exchange ideas freely?
Yeah,
that'll work a lot better. Like
absolutely.
Bryan Kimbler, I think I would love doing a coaching session with
That'd be pretty cool. I don't know if he offers coaching sessions, though. Maybe if you offer him the right amount of money, he would.
$500 for 5 minutes, Bryan. I challenge you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, your session. How did that go?
Anyway, during the session, it was really cool having a person that plays at that level of play, because obviously the people who are at that level think about the game a little differently, and they see things that you don't see, or if not, we would all be at that level, right? The main
Hearthstone
thing
has
that I
no skill,
noticed,
remember.
no, absolutely no skill. It's all luck. They're just very lucky.
Exactly. And he shared some of his awesome luck with you. It's great.
Exactly.
He
sprinkled the luck on me, gain a few ranks. But no, the main thing that I noticed about this guy was how much attention he was paying to our opponents. From the get-go of the match, he was looking at their hand, seeing how many cards they would mulligan. He would even look at their rank. He would look, I don't know, he would probably even look at their name to see if he had played against them before. Maybe to get any idea of what the other person was playing. And it was very interesting because from turn 1, every single thing, what card your opponent would hover over. I remember in one turn we were playing against a priest, and it was turn 1, and this priest hovers over 2 cards, and he takes a moment to play the card. And from that, he instantly inferred that the priest had 2 plays on turn 1. And effectively, he played, it was a mech priest, which was really random at that rank, but he played the Cogmaster. And just because he hesitated on that play, he right away inferred that the other card was a Northshire Cleric. And from that point on, we started adjusting our plan to that. And effectively, the next turn, the priest played the Northshire Cleric. So it was like that sort of thing, that sort of read that really caught my attention. How he
that or just saying was spectating the other player as well without you knowing.
And he was just tricking you.
Really.
It was all bait.
That's what it was. It was all stream sniping. That's how they get so far.
Yep, and he's just like, and I will up my fee for this by $5. But no, that's really cool, and I've done that a couple times. I'm definitely not an expert on that, but I've noticed being able to do the same when I take that time to pay attention. So that makes sense. But I'm sure there's a lot of an in-depth level you can get on that point because there are so many cards and little maneuvers to memorize.
Yeah, and
I think if you asked me like 2 months ago if I wanted coaching, I probably would have taken it. But, like, back then, I think I was a better player because I played more. And the idea of coaching is to take you from a good player to a great player, rather than taking you from an average player, which is what I feel like I am now, into a good player. Which
yeah, Billy, I think you and I we could benefit from more like dedication and volume of play before we go into coaching.
Absolutely.
Well, no, don't get me wrong. I think both of you are a good place if you wanted to get some coaching. I'm saying, have some idea of how the game works. At least have an idea of the deck you want to learn, how it kind of works. You don't have to be an expert already on the deck. Just don't be clueless when you go into it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think you've seen me play recently. I'm not that good.
I think maybe like I could see it, maybe give myself a couple weeks to dedicatedly focus on the deck and then go into coaching from there. I don't think it's an unattainable thing for me. I just don't think tomorrow I'd say, I'm going to go get some Control Warrior coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't even dedicatedly played Control Warrior in, a month or two. But I am interested in pursuing that if I end up, increasing my Hearthstone volume a lot in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing to note, right? Hearthstone coaching is for somebody who wants to get very serious about this and who really wants to improve their game and reach legend, or maybe improve in their tournament play, and they want to get into the competitive scene. If you're just playing Hearthstone for fun, then coaching is probably not something you really want to waste your time on, unless you just have a lot of spare money and time and you just want to, hang out with somebody that knows a lot about the game.
If you got money and you're a casual player, don't be spending it on coaching. Be spending it on those packs.
The only thing I might advise you to spend it on is arena coaching, because that's investing in a way to get yourself more packs.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
But yeah, like for me right now, I still don't have a Sylvanas, so I should probably buy some packs.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go into coaching, and my coach is going to say, get Sylvanas, and then hang up the call, and I'm like, shoot, that's a good point, coach.
Yeah, allow me to go do that.
So yeah, anything you learned from that other than the watching the opponent, like anything about your deck in particular?
Yeah, well, he was very descriptive about Warrior in general, and his main comment when we started the coaching session was how Warrior never played on curve, and it just played around the most optimal play for the turn while planning ahead. He said even Control Warrior was not a on-curve deck. It was more about a very responsive and very kind of like controlling deck.
Tempo is not a concern.
Yeah, exactly. Especially Patron Warrior. Like some of your turns are so clunky and so weird. And then again, his ability to be able to read his opponent that well was actually very helpful in those sort of situations, because he would constantly the whole time he would be thinking, what is my opponent gonna play next turn? He could play a Belcher, he could play this, he could play that, and depending on what the worst thing your opponent was able to play, then he would be like, okay, we should maybe play Death Spite here and actually go face so we can have it ready for next turn. Or he would call out like, well, our opponent's probably going to do this next turn, so we should try to cycle right now as much as we can to try to draw into this, and that. So it was always the way he was playing it was very centered towards his opponent, which was actually pretty eye-opening for the Patron Warrior, because a lot of decks sometimes don't have to pay as much attention to their opponent, like Combo Druid, where you're more concerned about taking over the board and getting your opponent to 14 rather than like, oh, I have to play around this and around that. You're more like putting up the pressure. Not that you don't have to think what your opponent's doing, obviously, but with this deck, you really, really have to be paying attention.
Well, Patron Warrior is an interesting deck because I haven't played it extensively, but it seems to use your own opponent's creatures against them if they play things like in the wrong order, because you can bounce your patrons off them, that sort of thing. So it seems like something that if you can accurately predict your opponent, you can really take advantage of the order in which they're playing things and when they play them.
The other thing he had very clear was when to capitalize, when to get that Patron Warrior out and play. Sometimes on certain turns where I would hesitate, I would be like, I don't know about Patron right here because I'm only going to be able to create 2 copies. And then he would be, well, your opponent can only do this, this, and this, and he already used this, so he's not gonna be able to use this, and it's 8th turn, so if he does this, then he's not gonna be able to get back on next turn. And it was like this whole analysis of it, which made a lot of sense. And then, of course, we play the Patron Warrior, only 2 copies of it. Our opponent can deal with it. Next turn, we just won the game.
Yeah, that's fascinating stuff, because it's every turn becomes a much broader calculation, because when you're just looking at your own cards, the amounts of moves you can make are pretty slight. In Hearthstone, you have a pretty limited amount of mana, a pretty limited amount of cards. But when you then take in like how many different factors they could have, suddenly there are like 100 more things to weigh when you're considering like what to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, towards the end of the coaching session, once our time was over, he offered me if I wanted to come and join him to spectate him climbing his own ladder. And I was like, yeah, of course, I would love that. And we jumped to the ladder. He was already top 8 at the moment.
Jeez.
So it was really exciting. And we were on the Skype call together. And his first opponent, I think, was Forsen. And it was really funny because instantly Forsen messages him and he's like, hey, good luck, blah, blah, I don't know, something. So obviously they already kind of know who each other are and they face each other at that rank already. Forsen was playing at Druid and it was such a cool game. It was, I don't know, it swung back and forth so many times. And I think towards the end, Forsen was able to pull off the win with like 3 health left or something like that. It was a really, really close game. But it was really exciting to see him go the back and forth and then being able to be in the Skype call with him and getting his insight on how the plays were going and what Forsen was going to do, and the whole thing was very exciting.
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty dang fascinating. I would like to do that even if, I'm not, quote unquote, like it's not the most effective time for me to do coaching. I think that would just be like a fascinating experience, just even one time to see like what that's like. That almost interests me more than the direct coaching. Is just like watching these guys play and get to be there with them and ask them questions as they play.
That part was really fun. I really enjoyed that part. As a funny comment though, another game that he was playing against this hunter, and it was a very intense game. And the hunter got really lucky a lot of the times, with rolling Huffer and other couple of things, and brought him really low. But he played it really well, playing around everything. And at the end, the hunter was at 5 life and he was at 3 life. The hunter was out of cards and had a secret in play. So he calculated everything. He was like, okay, if it's freezing trap, I can do this. If it's explosive trap, I can do this. If it's snakes, I can do this. And he pretty much had the game won. And at that point, I was like, he played his turn perfectly. And then at the last play of the game, he attacks the hunter with his face to give the final killing blow. And this trap explodes and is freaking misdirection, which directs him into an Acolyte of Pain that has been buffed and kills him, losing him the game.
Wrecked.
And we were both just static, just
Misdirection
like, what
destroyed.
the hell just happened? He was like top, like rank 25, and this was like a rank 2 hunter or something like that.
Oh no!
And I don't know. It was just like the funny moment of that session.
Jazzed.
No, I bet he was speechless for a second. He was like, "Wait, what?"
That's funny how you can get like when you're playing at low levels, you anticipate it could be anything. So that's where you can get yourself into trouble, is when you're too sure of what your opponent has. Then you're just like, of course it's that card. And then you just don't even think about like, what if it's a completely different secret? Like, what's your contingency plan there? So that's really funny.
I thought it was really awesome.
Something that I think players like Trump do really well. They consider every option, not just the standard option.
Yeah.
True, although I don't think anybody would have seen that one coming.
Yeah, I know. It's just something I particularly notice in Trump, who's somebody I don't watch a lot, but whenever I do, I notice he does think about every single option, not just the main ones everyone uses.
Totally. Like, for example, he could have just been, well, I might as well attack with a minion just in case it's like this other secret or something. But it can be hard to do when you're about to win like that. One other quick question I had about how the coaching session went is, how did you find, like, I'm curious in his teaching style, did he often like let you say what play you thought you would do first? Did he let you like make plays?
Yes,
Did he
so
just
before
tell
we
you?
started the session, he did make it clear that his preferred way of teaching was if you told him what you would do, and
Perfect.
then he would tell you what he would do, or he would just be like, yeah, that sounds good.
I think that's great because it gives him a chance to intercede before you actually make the move, but it's giving you a chance to play yourself.
Yeah,
and come up
exactly.
with your
He's
own
not
ideas.
the point is you don't want him to play for you. You want to play and then have him point out what you might be able to do better.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I was hoping that was the case because I think I've definitely found that the best way to teach people in playing Hearthstone. So I'm excited to try that now. How much did that one cost you? Did you do an hour?
He was doing, I think, $30 an hour, so he's not super
That's fair.
expensive.
I might actually check that out as well. If he's warrior expert, maybe he does control
Yeah,
warrior.
and it's a good time. You know what I mean? If you have extra $30 lying around and an extra hour or two that you're not doing anything, he's a cool guy, and like there's a lot of coaches out there who are actually really cool too. So you get to hang out with a person who knows how to play Hearthstone really well, and you get to learn a little bit.
Very cool. Well, that's an awesome topic, Andres. I completely didn't expect that because I hadn't really even thought about Hearthstone coaching in a long time. So thank you for bringing that.
Yeah, no
That
problem.
was neat. All right, so it goes on to my topic here. So this is a topic that is specifically not about Hearthstone. And before people get too freaked out and say, are they talking about Batman again? It's actually about... It's actually about every card game other than Hearthstone. And that could include a Batman one if it's out there. But I just thought it'd be interesting to explore, like, for each of us, what were our backgrounds with card games before Hearthstone or after it? Have we played any others or did we get into any card games because of it? So, Billy, you go ahead and start us out here.
So I played this Batman card game when I was a child. No, when I was younger, I had a fascination with Yu-Gi-Oh, as a lot of younger audiences do. However, a lot of kids I hung out with. Obviously, I'm not hanging out. The point is, every child looked at Yu-Gi-Oh cards as like, oh, this, look at this pretty art, right? But I always wanted to play with the cards, and it was really depressing to me because none of my friends did actually want to play with the cards.
As a kid who was into Pokemon...
They just wanted to collect them?
And just collected the cards,
I
feel I was part of the
actually.
problem.
Oh, you were a part of the... You guys suck!
I was the same as you, Brian.
gosh.
Granted, this was when I was like 10 years old.
You same here.
Alright, well...
All
there
right.
you go.
So
Being a person who had all these Yu-Gi-Oh cards and never got to play with them, when I was a little bit older, I had like a PC Yu-Gi-Oh game like that I had from when I was a kid. I just installed it and messed around with it a little bit, and then I was just messing around on YouTube and I came across a Hearthstone video and I'm like, wait a minute, there's an actual online trading card game that I can go play? Let's go do that. And then obviously that's where I found Hearthstone. And since then I've branched off and done other card games. I've played Infinity Wars, which is a free-to-play card game on Steam. Played a tiny bit of Magic on Steam. I've played the Pokemon trading card game on the online app. And yeah, I've branched off to a lot of card games. My most favorite card game that's not Hearthstone would probably have to be the Pokemon one, because the Pokemon one's actually pretty
Pokemon
good
is really good.
I
It
like
has
that a
a
lot.
very unique setup to it. Like it plays pretty differently than anything else.
I like the win condition, which is like essentially just beating up all their Pokemon.
It simulates the actual Pokemon games which came before really well. It wasn't just Magic with Pokemon skin. It was like you have your team of Pokemon out there, you evolve them, you attach, you use like their couple different abilities and swap out between them to be effective against what the other person has out. So they did a really good job translating those rules.
It's surprisingly basic, but surprisingly complex at the same time. Like I was able to... My nephew was staying with us for quite some time, and he had a bunch of Pokemon trading cards, and I wanted to teach him how to actually play them because he was like, "You scrubs," and wanted to just look at the artwork. I'm like, no, let's play the game. And he really liked it once he understood the rules, and it was really easy for him to pick up on that. So
Nice.
yeah.
So Andres, what about you? Where do you start in this wild world of trading card games?
I guess the first experience I've had with cards was the Pokemon game too when I was a really young kid. But yeah, I was like you, I never played them. I just collected them and I kind of like tried making up my own rules, but
It looks
that
so
really
pretty.
didn't work out. And yeah, none of my friends really played with them, so that was that.
Yep.
And then later on, when I was a teenager, I started getting into Magic. I remember my friend was like, "Hey, dude, I learned about this really cool game. I know this store where they sell it. We should just go get some decks." And I had no idea about the game, but the way he told me about it really sounded fun. So we bought a few decks, and oh my god, I fell in love with that game. I was so addicted to it. From that point on, I think I spent like every afternoon playing with my friend with my little Soldier's white deck against his multicolor Slivers deck. They were both like those pre-made decks that they sold at the time.
So you were basically playing Paladin, he was playing something that still has no remote equivalent in Hearthstone.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just horrible monsters that you can't kill because they start helping each other.
Murlocs!
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
There you
Murlocs
go.
are like the closest to Slivers, actually.
Yeah, they don't come close though.
No, not even.
But
But yeah, Magic was like my first love of card games. I love that game, and I played competitive for a little bit. Fortunately, there was like a card store right down the street from my house that held like Friday Night Magics and other tournaments, like national tournaments and stuff. So there was like I don't want to say thriving competitive scene, but there was a competitive scene in my city.
Yeah. That's the nice thing about Magic is if you live in a relatively large city or even a lot of small ones, they have great presence everywhere. It's kind of the ubiquitous physical trading card game.
Yeah, it's a very
That's the
international
terrible
game.
thing about Australia. Nothing exists out here. I wish
What
I had
about-
those
what about you, Bryan?
experiences.
Okay, so me, like you, I started with Pokemon, but it was just collecting the cards. I didn't really play that game until a while
You
later.
Scumbags.
Probably the primary way I played the Pokemon trading card game was in the Pokemon trading card Game Boy Color game, which I got a little while down the road, and that was awesome. There was a Game Boy Color Pokemon trading card game, and it was really
But
well
if you're
done.
on Game Boy, you screw the trading card game. We've got the brilliant actual games.
Okay, so that is true, but I actually like the gameplay of the trading card games more than the combat system from the RPGs. I just think it works incredibly well. From a young I love the RPGs. I just think that the combat system in the pure combat system in the trading card game is awesome, and I've just since a young age been fascinated by trading card games. Apparently not playing them until they were made into video games, but yeah. But yeah, going from there, it was like you, Andres. I was initiated into Magic before anything else. I mean, I was incredibly late to Magic, considering it came out like in 92 or something. And I got into it maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So I was
very recently.
Yeah, I was very late. I was introduced to it actually, once again, through an online format. My very initial introduction to Magic was in one of those probably illegal programs that let you like download and play all the cards with people online. So my first experience was, here is every single card ever created for Magic, build a deck. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's going to be a painful experience right there.
my deck was ludicrous, and my friend was learning the same way. So we built some of the most ridiculous decks and had no ideas how the actual fundamentals of Magic work. But over time, I became more normal and bought actual cards for it. And
How does that even work? Like, how many, as a new player, like, how do you put that many land? Like, how do you figure out how many lands to put in and stuff like that?
I had a friend teaching me the very basics. But
okay.
yeah, I wasn't just like reading a rule book. I had someone giving me some advice, but
It would have been hilarious
Yeah,
if you
because
had, like, 3 lands.
Magic does take some initiation. I don't think it's a game you just pick up out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, Billy, it got pretty bad. We just didn't even think about like adding any enchantment destruction in our decks or anything. So I could just play this card that said ground creatures creatures without flying can no longer attack, and my opponent just couldn't do anything about it. Like, shoot, I can't.
What a
attack
bully! What a
at
bully,
all.
Bryan!
It was amazing. I ended one game with 3,000 Pegasi tokens. Sorry, 30,000 Pegasi tokens. And at 30,000 life, I still lost the game, but we'll go into that story another time. That was a dumb game. Anyway, but yeah, I got into the physical format later and still play it some to this day. Hearthstone really took my primary trading card time. The thing I mostly play Magic for is the Commander format, which is the format where you have 100 cards. Every card is different. You cannot run like copies of the same card. So it's like this really crazy format where every game is different. And the tactics, it's kind of like the opposite of Hearthstone, where it thrives on so much complexity you can't predict what's going to happen next. You just have to make the best use of the current scenario. As compared to Hearthstone, which is like a very, what would you say? A very cut down, like Blizzard does, it cuts it down to the very fundamental. So every decision you make is impactful. There isn't nearly as huge of a variety of decisions. So I kind of go to Magic nowadays for the opposite of what I'm getting from Hearthstone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Commander sounds really cool. My roommate keeps wanting me to build a Commander deck. I just haven't gotten around to it, but it seems cool just because every game is completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. The Commander rules themselves are super interesting. I won't go into them because they're really confusing until you get it. But It basically lets you create a deck around one specific creature that you can keep playing. So if you can like find these different legendary creatures and say, oh, that's awesome. So it'd be like if you could keep playing Ysera multiple times and they remove it and then you can play it again for more mana. So it's like you can build these decks around these specific creatures and it really adds some flavor to them, the kind of synergies you can create, being able to count on getting this one creature out over and over again.
Yeah, but since the decks are 100 cards and you can only have one copy of each card, it's very the games get pretty crazy.
For sure. And since Magic lets you combine different colors, it's basically like you could play in Hearthstone the equivalent to like a hybrid priest warrior warlock deck with 100 cards that are all different. And yeah, it's ludicrous.
Yeah, it gets pretty crazy.
But it's fun. I just like it for very different reasons than I like Hearthstone. So I kind of keep both of them going in their own ways. But Hearthstone definitely captured my imagination in terms of what I play the most in trading card games nowadays.
Funnily enough, like I played Magic for a long time and then I kind of fell out of it. I sold my whole collection, which is something that I still regret. I wish I had kept it now in hindsight. But then like way later down the line, when Hearthstone came out, I started playing Hearthstone and it kind of like reminded me of that love of card games that I had. I was like, oh man, I remember what it was like to collect your cards and like build your decks and then learn your decks and like, I don't know, it's such a cool format of game.
Yeah.
That it got me back into Magic. It was recently because of Hearthstone that me and my roommates were like, okay, we should buy a Magic box. And we've played a couple of booster drafts, like here at the house. We invited like some people. We did like 8-man booster drafts, which is really cool. It's like, think about like
I do that
arena.
A lot now.
Yeah, it's like arena, but for Magic. You just open packs, and then you build the decks from whatever cards you get in the packs.
Yep,
It's really fun.
For sure, that's the primary way I play Magic now. I played through the whole like recent block. Just doing that for every set, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, especially on the releases, when they do the huge booster drafts at the stores and stuff, that's really fun.
For sure. I think probably the thing that has kept me coming back to Hearthstone the most over Magic, one is that it's Warcraft, and I'm just a huge Warcraft fan. And Magic, the world and lore aren't nearly as interesting to me, or as, nostalgic.
I think Magic has a very interesting lore. The problem with it is that it's not a continuous lore. It's just like
they do anything they want.
Exactly. It's a lot of different universes and different like storylines that don't really like fit with each other. So there's no. I feel like the thing that Warcraft has over that is that the characters have been built over a long period of time, right?
Totally.
Years and years, and like people grow fond of these characters, and is a character you can look up to and follow and expect. But in Magic, since they're not, pushing the same characters, you kind of don't fall in love with any of them.
Yeah, not only that, but I think it's not the trading card game is one of the worst ways to tell a story. Like you can't get a lot of story across in a trading card game unless you like create a campaign around it or something in a video game.
That's very true.
So Warcraft did the smart thing of this is a trading card game, based after an existing license, and you can go to that license's other properties to learn about it. In Magic's case, unless they like tell people to write books about their lore, which can be hit or miss, as we've learned with a lot of different created books like that. You can't really find out the lore through the cards very well. So you just had to be going to other sources to find out about it. So I think it works a lot better having existing lore that's created in things that aren't trading card games.
For sure.
They'd have to make it up there. But yeah, I agree with you completely. Draft is an incredibly fun way to play Magic. I think probably the other primary thing that keeps you coming back to Hearthstone is how much easier it is to get competitive in that game.
Absolutely. And I think that's what puts Hearthstone ahead of many, or if not all, card games right now.
And yeah, it's not just the complexity of the game, the relatively limited complexity, so that's huge. It's the ease of being able to face a wide variety of players in it. In Magic, if you want to face someone other than your close group of friends, you have to like spend an entire Friday night just to get a couple ladder games in, or the equivalent of
exactly. Or you could buy the Magic online, but then you're gonna just end up pulling your hairs out anyway. So.
Yeah, it's not very elegant. So
I've heard they're trying to rework that.
Yeah, I'm curious. To see
I surely hope so.
Yeah, for sure. But I think Hearthstone just provides that very easy time. It respects your time, but also lets you dump time into it if you want. So it's a way you can actually play a card game at a high level and feel you're playing it your best and competitively without.
Yeah, exactly. Playing Hearthstone doesn't require a big commitment like other card games do.
For sure. So yeah, that's really interesting. I was cool to kind of see where we all came from. Andres, you and I seem to have a very similar background. In card games. Billy, I'm sorry, we ruined everything.
I'm sorry, we never got into Pokemon. Although it does look really cool. I wish I could play some Pokemon because I never played it with the actual rules.
There's a free-to-play online app.
Yeah,
similar to Hearthstone.
Pretty good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We should check that out sometime.
We
should do a video, Billy. We should do a video of you and me playing Pokemon.
You guys should do a video of you guys teaching me how to play Pokemon.
I love this. This is great. Throw Andres into a match and say, figure it out. All right. Lastly, Billy, we don't have much time here, but I wanted to go ahead and just talk about a card you made. I'm going to toss it. I'm sorry for anyone who looked at it in the show notes last time. I totally forgot to link it. This time I will link Billy's cards in the show note here so you can see it. But you created another of your own creations for Hearthstone.
Yeah. I'm actually going to be doing this every week. It's going to be a weekly segment thing.
And we don't have a name for it, despite my worst attempts.
All right, it's kind of a hard segment to name. Yeah. Maybe you guys can help us out with that, and you guys can maybe give us a name for this segment. But I have made a Warlock weapon, which is kind of something that hasn't been seen in Hearthstone before. And this card is this card is called Necronic Wand.
That's a great name, by the way.
Thank you. It's a 2-cost weapon, has 3 durability and no attack. Allow me to explain. Hold on.
I don't understand this card.
The ability reads, can't attack. At the end of your turn, give +1/+1 to a random friendly demon. Now, the idea behind this card is that you'll get 6/6 3/3. 3/3, so 6 overall stats out of this weapon for 2 mana, which is obviously really good. But you have to have a friendly demon on the board for this to work. Now, as far as I'm aware, if this effect was in Hearthstone, the way it would work is at the end of your turn, if there's no friendly demon, the effect would trigger anyway. Because of the way that Dark Cultist works, right? Because when Dark Cultist dies, you still see the effect try to happen, right? You still see the glow. Even if there's nothing there to give the stats to. So sometimes this weapon wouldn't give the buff if there was no friendly demon out.
Although, what about cards like Explosive Trap? When there's like a freezing trap and an explosive trap, or is it the other way around? If you attack and there's an explosive trap and a freeze trap, if the explosive trap kills whatever attacks, the freeze trap doesn't trigger.
Well, that's different, because if it is the other way around, the freezing trap and the explosive trap, they both trigger.
You are right about that.
I don't know my trap logic well enough.
And besides, we're talking about a secret interaction rather than this type of interaction, which I think the Dark Cultist is a closer comparison. Anywho, point being, the very best is from this card is 6 stats for 2. Most of the times it will be 4 for 2 roughly. Anywho, point being, I made this card because I think that the current demon decks have a lot of little 1/1 tokens for demons, and it would be nice to be able to make them a little better with stuff like Implosion. This would synergize really well with Imp Master, has some potential synergy. I think it's a cool card, but I want to hear you guys' opinion on it.
Sure. Quick note before that. So I was confused by this card because it doesn't say anywhere that it loses 1 durability.
Oh yeah, I apologize. That's my bad.
Okay, cool. Can you? Would you be able to? Would it even fit?
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Would the text even fit there? Because I know that that text is on Sword of Justice.
I don't think it is.
The text is it?
I looked it up because
okay.
I'm fancy that way, and I can read Sword of Justice. Whenever you summon a minion, give it +1/+1, and this loses 1 durability.
Okay, it does say it.
Well, I should change that then. I
cool.
apologize.
Yeah, if you could send me the new image.
I'm pretty sure I'll have to take out Can't Attack from it and just have it be a 0 attack weapon. But
I like the idea that you can smack your face into something, though, because think about it. As a warlock, that could be good. So you could,
that's
smack
a good
your
idea.
face into
you could
someone.
run it in handlock to, purposely lower yourself. I like it. I'm getting rid of the Can't Attack.
Exactly.
The weapon officially now reads, at the end of your turn, give +1/+1 to a random friendly demon, and this loses 1 durability.
Perfect. Man, I love that strategy now. Just slamming your head into things.
That's probably the reason Warlock currently doesn't have a weapon.
Yeah, probably.
I'm going to keep the Can't Attack for balancing issues.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
fine.
I think you should keep it because you could play Nefarian against the rogue and get deadly poison or something, and then you can attack.
That's awesome.
That's OP. Yeah. Someone should have that.
All right. So, or you could run a pirate deck, or
True, Greenskin.
Yeah, totally. So, a Warlock Pirate coming soon. As for what I think of this this card, I think it. Okay, so maybe it has a place in Zulak, or do you think the tempo's too low for that, Andres? Because I'm trying to figure out. It seems definitely, obviously not a handlock card.
It's kind of it's kind of the idea of spawning a new type of deck that works off of the tokens from demonish cards like Imp Master, Implosion, Imp Gang Boss, and stuff like that.
I see. That's cool. The one thing that I really like about this card is that is a handlock weapon, which for the longest time I really wanted them to introduce this sort of thing, weapons for every class, even though they're not a weapon class. Just make him stuff like this where it's not meant to attack other minions, but it's meant to give an effect, kind of like enchantments. But you can just use the weapon slot since it's already there, right? So you play it; it's a permanent thing that has an effect. Maybe at the end of the turn, maybe when you play a minion, maybe when you play a spell, whatever it be. But I love this idea of having weapon cards for all the classes. Just that,
because the weapon doesn't necessarily have to be a weapon. It could just be in that slot.
Yeah, it could be like what you said, like a scepter or a wand, or it can even be a shield. What if it gives you protective abilities or stuff? I don't know. There could be so many things that you could do with it. I like it. I was thinking about the +1/+1 effect, and it would be cool. I don't know just how much impact it would have on the decks that exists right now, but you're right. If you're aiming it more towards a token deck, taking care of smaller minions, it'd be cool. But what if the effect was the other way around? At the end of your turn, give an opponent minion -1/-1.
That's a cool thought, because Warlocks are very big on damage over time. I guess, my one thought about this particular effect is a 3/3 for 2 that has a chance to proc, but not likely, and spread out over 3 turns just seems too weak to play. Because you could play 3/2 for 2 really easily.
Well, the idea is to not play it on 2. The idea is that maybe you, on turn 3, you could play a Flame Imp with this, or on turn 4, the previous turn, you could play the Imp Gang Boss or an Imp Master, and then you could tap into Necrotic Wand, or maybe play Necrotic Wand and a 2-drop. I don't think there is a 2-drop demon right now.
Mistress of Pain?
There you go, Mistress of Pain. Yeah, okay. So you could Mistress of Pain, Necrotic Wand on turn 4. The idea is to play it with other stuff rather than playing it on its own. Obviously, you won't get the buff that way unless you played a Flame Imp the previous time.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The reason I was saying maybe if it was the other way around, if it gave -1/-1 to the other creatures, is that way it can be a very board-centric kind of control deck where you're trying to outvalue your opponent with your mid-rangey 3 third turn to sixth turn kind of creatures. And it could be maybe like -1/-1 to a non-demon.
The way I look at it is some cards have to be bad, and I look at this as like a Blessing of Kings almost. Like it's good in very, very rare situations, but it's a fun card.
I gotcha. So you're not trying to make it like a...
Yeah, I wasn't looking for a top-tier card here. I was just coming up with a cool idea that works with a new type of Warlock.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think it's on the right course. I think it's one of those cards that the specifics of it would need to be tweaked just because it's kind of unexplored territory, especially for Warlock, to see like how the demon synergy and stuff could work. But the thing I do like about it is I like the idea of this low-cost weapon. I like the idea of a Warlock like using this wand to buff his own minions. And I love the idea of utility weapons being more of a thing, because I think that is the way to go for introducing weapons to new classes without making them just feel like we gave all classes weapons, if they want to go that route. Granted, it would also make stuff like Harrison even more playable, which is great.
Hooray for Harrison!
Granted, you can never get more than 2 cards from this thing, I believe.
I believe you're right.
Wait, no, there would be a way. You could play the Chronic Wand and the green skin, and then they could play Harrison. And then they would get 3 cards.
Thank you, Ryan.
But yeah, I think it's pretty neat. I like it a lot. What were your thoughts on it, Billy? Were you happy with how it turned out?
Yeah, I think it's obviously it's not a top tier card or anything, but I think it's a nice addition to trying to introduce a new type of weapon into the game, because we haven't really explored like wands or staffs yet in the game, and I think eventually they will. So I thought I would jump the gun and get one in there.
What if it was whenever your opponent plays a minion, give it -1/-1, like reverse?
That's a really cool thought.
Like reverse. What's the name of the paladin?
Sword of Justice.
Reverse Sword of Justice.
That's. I may already have done that for another card.
All right. Awesome. I like that a lot. I also love the art you chose for this one, which is like a skull on a stick with bat wings and green fire. Like, if that's not a Warlock, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, that's some art from the TCG, I believe.
Yeah, TCG had a lot of great art. It is very helpful for these custom Hearthstone cards sort of thing. All right, well, that'll do it for our episode this week. I thank you guys both for coming.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. It's always very fun to record with you guys and have a little chat about Hearthstone.
Absolutely. I was really interested in that coaching stuff. It got me thinking about that again, which I haven't in a very long time. And thank you, Billy, for your card and wonderful presence, as always.
Well, thank you for your thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your thank you for my thank you. All right, we got a new iTunes review, guys.
New iTunes review, hell yeah.
Yeah, it was a 5-star review. The review title is First. It is by Wake, and the body text is Nailed It. So, thank you, sir, for your review. I appreciate the ironic humor.
Cool.
And
that proves that he has been listening to the show, which makes me even happier.
That's a good point. Thank you both him and what was it, Matador Dog, like the best name ever. Thank you, Wake and Matador Dog, for your reviews. Those are awesome.
Yeah, thanks guys. That really helps.
For sure. It's a big thing. It's the main way to give us feedback and reviews, honestly, in a public format. I don't know of any other great podcast sources for that, and iTunes is the most popular one. So yeah, go ahead, check us out on iTunes, and leave us a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. We will read it on the show, comment on your wonderful sense of humor, and be very thankful. If you want to email us, though, and I would love to start getting emails in, I think it'd be really fun to have like a listener topic each week when we can fit them in. So if you want to email us any of your own topic ideas and have us discuss something in particular, like, I don't know, Batman, email us at hearthaholics@gmail.com. You can also tweet us random stuff and follow our goings-on at Twitter. We are at Hearthaholics. You can find us on YouTube by searching Hearthaholics. No, Hearthaholics on YouTube. Hearthaholics, a Hearthstone podcast. You can also find us on Facebook with that. And we are a part of the Whales Are Whales Network, which is a podcasting network with podcasting and internet media network with awesome shows like this, with awesome people like us. So check out whalesareWhales.com. There's some great stuff for you to find there. And we do a game night for the Angry Chicken, fellow Hearthstone podcast who inspired all of this. Check out their subreddit for details that I post every week on the forums. You will find me there as Lord Meldor, or on the Reddit, I should say. So that brings us to our personal stuff. Andres, where can people find your work?
People can find me personally on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. You can also find my music at massevemusic.com. You can listen to music for free or buy it or do whatever you want with it if you go over to the website. You can also find me on soundcloud.com/Masseve if you want to listen to all of her stuff over there too, including the intro theme for this podcast.
Nice. Yes, that is awesome. Billy.
Yes, my Twitter handle is at @BBroly, and you can also find me on YouTube at youtube.com/BrolyHS. And to spite the title suggestion, I have actually been uploading zero Hearthstone. Deal with it. I've been uploading a lot of Heroes of the Storm, though, so if you're interested in that, that's...
all you need to do is add 2 letters.
Well, no, that requires effort. Also, you can't change your YouTube URL.
Oh, yeah. It's like the Angry Chicken is still StarCast, I believe, on YouTube. It's a bummer. They really need to implement that. But yeah, that's really cool. If you want to find your Hearthstone content, check out the Hearthaholics YouTube content, because that's where you're putting that. Yes,
absolutely.
So, neat. Myself, I am Lord Meldor on the Twitter. I am a part of a lot of podcasts, so let me just run through this real quick. I do a lot of stuff for Whales and Whales, including running it. I do Hearthaholics, as you know. I do a video game music podcast called Train Station 8. Recently switched to a new format, so check that out if you want to hear me and my brother talking about video game music and interviewing a bunch of people from the video game music scene. I also do Third Person, a storytelling podcast, where I also have my brother on that show, as well as another friend, and we meet every week just to talk about different stuff in storytelling, any type of media, any type of medium, and check it out there. We recently did an episode on the storytelling of Avengers Age of Ultron. And that is spoiler-filled, so, Billy, don't listen to it.
I know, I want to listen to the episode, but I can't.
But anyone who does want to get spoiled on Ultron stuff and hear our varied perspectives, check out...
They already watched it, since it's been out for, a while now.
That's a good point. A lot of people probably already saw that movie, given box office numbers. So yeah, check that out at whalesorwhales.com. You can just... Honestly, that's the easiest place to find all of these shows. And that'll do it for me this week. Oh, and we mentioned it earlier, but the Whales and Whales podcast is a lot of fun. Not on iTunes yet, but you can find it on our site. Yeah. Also, we're on Stitcher. Forgot to mention that. And with that, I am done with plugging for this episode. We could move on to our outro, which is our flavor text of the week. Billy, you said you had it. Where the heck is it?
It is right here. Sometimes it feels like this is all again.
Let the hunt begin.